Welcome to the Metaphysics Hour. Sorry about that. I'm your host, Rory Colgan. Got an exciting episode for you, so thanks for tuning in. This is a production of InnerHealthToday.com, and it's in association with We Are Valuable Media. Tonight, we are going to talk about something that's important, but we're going to come at it from an angle that you probably haven't heard. So there's this thing in America called the political system, and most people think that there's two parties in this system. There's the Republicans and the Democrats. Now, there's problems with that from the get-go, from the universal perspective. So let me just tell you a little bit about the universe. The universe doesn't live in a box. The universe creates every box that every person lives within. So the universe is broad and inclusive. When this country was founded, it had broad and inclusive principles, and it didn't have a whole lot of legal code. That's when the country thrived the most, because it was the most natural or native to how the universe functions. And the universe functions quite brilliantly. It can't be improved upon. Yet here we are, little humans, trying to improve upon it. And we only make it worse because we go further and further from the truth. In that sense, the country was better when there were less laws, because there are always laws that govern creation. So when a government starts to create laws, they have to be very careful to create the laws in harmony with those universal principles. And over time, those laws get destroyed because there's small gain, there's greed, there's errors in thinking that eventually become passed and become law. So now, back in the day when you could come to America and your neighbors might be Native Americans, you might get along well with them, or they might come and kill you because you're violating their sacred ground. It just kind of can go either way. If you happen to be from Africa or Ireland, you might just end up being a slave. Well, the Irish people could eventually blend in and just change their name. So my clan, the McColgans or the Old Colgans or whatever it was, they just said Colgan. So they tried to hide that ancestry. And so the Irish people stopped being slaves after a while. Well, the African people eventually stopped being slaves too, but that was after hundreds of years in certain areas. My point is, even though America was better hundreds of years ago, it has always had its difficulties, and it's always been hypocritical, because sure, it says any person or any man has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but it didn't include Irish people, which is my ancestry, or it didn't include African people. It's like, well, there's a problem again. So it's like, even from the get-go, this country has had problems. It's never been perfect, but it's a lot easier to have perfection when you respect that there are universals at work. So this video is to point out that the universals of a two-party system are so abhorrent to the truth that you could find the root of our problems could simply be, and I could make this argument and I could stand on this argument without anybody being able to knock me down from it, that one of the major contributors to our problem in this country is that you have two parties, right? You have people that lean to the right and you have people that lean to the left. In other words, nobody's balanced. Nobody's in their frickin' mind, because they're all leaning one way or the other way. And this is a narrative that the two parties want you to do. They want you to go from here to here. They want you to vacillate back and forth or get stuck over here. So you see it this way, so you can be pulled in that direction, or you see it this way and you can be pulled in that direction. But the reality is, your balance is in between the two hemispheres. So we have two parties, the blue Democrats and the red Republicans. Well, think about this from metaphysics. Republicans have as their color the base chakra, the root chakra. And if you think about it, that's perfect. They didn't know, or maybe they did know, but esoterically speaking, they are the party of the root chakra. And guess what the Democrats are? They are the party of either the third eye, or you could say the will. I would say a little bit more of the third eye, but they're a little bit about both because they want to control you. So they're definitely using the will. They want to tell you what you can and can't not do. And of course, the Republicans are doing the same thing. But then they also are all about the poor and the environment and caring for people. So that's empathetic more or less, where the root is all about me, me, me. Don't tax me. Don't take my guns. This is my right. So you see, our country's political process, if it was a spiritual entity, only has its brow and its root going. That's horrible. That's 2 out of the 7 major chakras. You're going to be completely imbalanced. Imagine a rainbow with just red and blue. That's not the way nature intended it. So the fact that we have 2 parties represented in these debates is the symptom of the deeper problem, which is we're not inclusive with all possibilities. One of the universal laws is the law of infinity. Another universal law is the law of relativity. I've done videos about them in my Metaphysical news show. So if you want to see more information about them, check out all the universal laws. They're up, free, available for anybody to appreciate and use. But what's happening here is that we're limiting ourselves. All right, I got this silly little board right here, right? So what do you see here? All right, so this is what they want you to know. That it takes 15% of people polled to include another party in the debates, just as an example, right? So we're not even talking Senate seats or congressional seats. We're just talking about presidential debates. Well, until we get that 15% threshold, this is all you can create. 2 creations, 2 different parties. That is not how creation works. You can only create a line. Well, if you add a third element, you can actually create a 2-dimensional drawing. You can actually have some form. This is the most basic shape that you can make, and it's needed for 3 points. Think about life. Life, you need, at least human life and most animal life, you need 3 parts: a man, a woman, and then the offspring, so that the species can continue. You have day, night, and what's the third one? I guess dusk and whatever. That's a bad analogy. But in any case, you have to have more to understand the full creation. So I would say, from a metaphysical perspective, you need 12. You need 12 parties represented, because there are 12 ways or 12 universal laws that operate at any given point. So I would say the Democrats and the Republicans, they actually can operate pretty well with one universal law, each one to their own. One is more about relativity, and the other one's about freedom of, just all sorts of things. But one of the universals is about your divine nature. Problem with that is that they don't have a complete picture. They limit things like abortion on your freedoms, which typically that's the party that's supposed to be more free of, like, hey, no more government telling me what I can and can't do, but we want government to tell you what to not do with your unborn baby. That's retarded. You're being hypocritical. So not only are the parties just one slice or one sliver of all of reality at their best, there are many problems with their hypocrisy in their actual party themselves. So they have attachments, because this is why people have hypocrisy. They have attachments to something, even though they recognize something else as more important. Okay? So when you have attachments, you are basically creating suffering and misery. These parties, because they're made up of Americans, and Americans have attachments, have problems. Now, there are parties like the Green Party and the Libertarian Party, and I guess in some case the Constitutional Party, maybe. I haven't done a whole lot of research on that. But then there's probably just people running for president, like the former actress Roseanne Barr, that are more in alignment with the universe than these 2-party candidates that we hear about. So, again, what we have right now in America is wrong from a metaphysical perspective, all right? It doesn't fully encapsulate the truth. And so if you're starting off on the wrong foot, how will you ever fix the problem? You have to start correctly, right? I mean, have you ever started anything incorrectly? It's like, I'm going to build a house and I'm going to make it out of wood. I'm going to forget to include lumber. Try building a house out of wood with no lumber. It's impossible, or very near to impossible. This is the state of America. We are trying to do things. We have good intentions, some of us, maybe most of us even, but we're doing it with 2/10 of the capability and the necessity, 2/10 of what is required to do it right. And even in those 2/10, we're not doing the 2/10. So maybe they're 0.5 of a tenth. So that means 1/10, 10% of what we need, we are getting. This is how wrong it is, people. You have to wake up and you have to realize that the political process isn't broken, it's incomplete. You don't look at your grocery list and then look at your cart and say, wow, there are 2 of 10 items in this cart. This grocery list is broken. No, government can work fine for the next few hundred years or however long. The point is, it's incomplete. We have to complete it. So we need to change our perception. Stop thinking that it's just Democrats or Republicans. It's not. They're so small. When you think of the universe, think of the universe, act with the universe. Again, check out my videos about how the universe operates. It will give you the broadest, most inclusive, most universal framework you'll ever need. That can be your mast. That can be your map that you use to guide your life. It's going to work way better than any of the BS that we have gotten in this society. The society has at its root the universals, but it's so corrupted through the generations that we need to reassess and look at what is actually true and separate it from the things that our culture says is true and valid. This is Rory Colgan from the Metaphysical News Hour, wishing you well, wishing you to be happy, and wishing you to be yourself. And if I can throw in one more thing, go ahead, align with the universe and change the world.